Hello and welcome to another video. I hope you are doing well. So I wanted to do this tag. I saw it. It's a fairly new tag. Well, it is a new tag. It is. I just wanted to do it because I think it was interesting and sounded fun. Questions to answer. The creator of the tag is Maddie. Her channel is Books with Maddie. I'll put her video and channel information in the description box below. So definitely check it out. She created this. So thank you, Maddie, for creating this video. Or not this video, this tag, so that I can do this in this video. Let's go ahead and get started before I say some other random stuff and don't know what I'm saying. So there are 12 questions, and I do have them written down. It's just easier for me that way. So number one, if I don't have, okay, so before I say the first question, if I do not have a copy of the book, or if it's put away in storage because I've got to make room for other books, then I'll just insert a image of the book there. So we'll do that. Number one, what is the first book you remember changing your perspective on something? This is interesting. There is no book that changed my perspective about the world or anything like that. But the book that I would say had the most impact with that is a middle grade. And it was suggested, I can't remember what video he suggested it in, but it was A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. I actually have the sequel. Let me just move my sunglasses out of the way. So the sequel is A Sprinkle of Sorcery, and I hope to get to this really soon, as it's on my main TBR shelf. But the first book is, again, A Pinch of Magic. That changed my perspective in the fact that I realized, despite being an adult, and Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin helped me with this perspective, and the book helped as well. But despite the fact of being an adult, I can still read middle grade. I was nervous and thought that if people found out being an adult I was reading YA books, that people would look down on me and belittle and bully and just negative stuff. And so I didn't even touch middle grade for such a long time. I think the last time I read middle grade was when I was in high school. So the fact that I'm now comfortable wanting to read middle grade, I think is a huge thing. And that's made it so I'm okay with saying I will read a children's book. And I did read a children's picture book. There were words in it, so I don't know if it's really a picture book, but a children's book this year. And I'll show that to you in a monthly wrap-up, because I did this month, which is November. I forgot where we were. But that really helped me realize that, again, despite being an adult, I can enjoy middle grade and younger books written for younger audiences. Now, some things I may look at and be like, that's silly, why is the character doing that? But then I'm not the target audience, but I can enjoy the story as a whole. So that, I would say, changed my perspective, and I am very grateful that perspective was changed. Question number 2. What's a book that made a big impact on you when you were younger? So I'm going to age myself here. I am 36. So I'm going to count anything pretty much younger. I'm thinking like high school, junior high, elementary, or shortly after high school when I was in my 20s. That's all younger. So, this one was a little difficult. I had to think. And the one that kept coming to my mind is a book by Nathaniel Hawthorne. And that is The Scarlet Letter. And what I would say is, for why that had a big impact, one, I realized that I like classic books. Once I can get past how difficult the language can be with it being older English, or if it's a little bit more dense, I enjoy classics. And that's great. That's more books for me to read. Which, although if you think about that, sometimes that can't be too good because I would love to read every book ever written, but it's just not going to happen. Um, and the other thing too, negatively wise, that it had a big impact on me, is I read it again, and I read it in high school, and the teacher was happy that I read it. The teacher was happy that I enjoyed the book and that I was actually answering the questions and doing the work. But I remember students in my class talking under their breath, going, "Holy cow! How just get the short notes, the condensed version. Why are you even bothering? Just read the synopsis, watch a movie, do this, do that. Don't waste your time reading the book." And it was looked down on from other classmates that I was actually reading and let alone gasp, "Oh no, I enjoyed the book." So I became ashamed of the fact that I was reading a classic, even though I knew I really enjoyed it. So I thought I had to be very secretive about enjoying classics and thinking that anyone would say you shouldn't, unless you're going to go into literature, you shouldn't like classics, was the impression that I got. So that took a long time to come over, and that impact and the way that my classmates reacted had a very negative impact on that, and that took a long time to get over. Question 3. What book or books made you realize how much you love reading or got you back into reading? Now for this one, there is a plethora of books because I've always enjoyed reading. But I have 5 books here. I'm trying not to give anything away right now. That reiterated to me how much I love it. Because plus I also, there's other books that helped confirm that how much I love reading. But I'm using those in a later question. So I'm going to use these ones. So these books are all written by the same author, and that author is Lois Duncan. I want more of her books. I only have these 5, and that is A Gift of Magic. And I'm not going to say any synopsis about any of these. They're just very good, but otherwise this video will be super, super long. So the next one I have is just Summer of Fear. Ransom. As you can see, there's a school bus on this cover, and I was actually kind of scared and had nightmares because I did read this when I was in junior high or high school, whenever this came out. Can't remember. Loved this one. Gallows Hill. And this actually kind of sparked my interest in learning more about Gallows Hill and the Salem witch trials. I have yet to do that, but it is something that I'm very interested in learning more about. And the last book that I have, I did see the movie for this when it came out, and that is I Know What You Did Last Summer. So I love these. There is one of my other favorite books by Lois Duncan, which I don't think I have. I've got to double check, is Daughters of Eve. That was spooky, and I really liked that. Question 4. What were some of your favorite books or series in middle school? And sorry, I'm looking off to the side. I'm reading the questions. Some of my favorite books in middle school, it wasn't a series, but these were although there were some by the author that were in a series that took place all on Fear Street. Can you guess the author? R.L. Stine. I love R.L. Stine. I've read most of his Fear Street books until I got to the point where I thought, I cannot read these because I'm too old for them. So I stopped reading them, and I'm not happy about that. But I do want to get back into reading them. So anyway, so that was the biggest thing, and that I found out about the Goosebumps books shortly after Fear Street, but the Goosebumps books I found, and I remember finding the Fear Street was in 5th grade, I believe. 5th or 6th, I think 5th. And then a couple months later, I was at one of my friend's house and saw that he had the Goosebumps books. But again, I thought, one, I couldn't read it because I'm, again, too old to read Goosebumps because it's written for children. But it's okay for my friend who's only a year younger than me because, one, he's younger than me, and two, he's a boy. And Goosebumps is for boys and Fear Street is for girls. That's what I thought when I was a child. Anyway, but I really want to read the Goosebumps and definitely want to read the Fear Street books. That just really helped ignite my absolute love of reading, were the books by R.L. Stine. Number 5. What's the best book you read in high school and or for a high school class? So I've already talked about The Scarlet Letter, but the book I want to mention right now, because one, I remember watching the movie several times and never realized that the movie was based on a book. And I realized how different than the books the movies can be due to cinematic and theatric elements. But, ooh, there is a map in this. I don't remember there being a map. Cool. Oh, sweet. I can't wait to reread this at some point. Oh, I want to reread it. So anyway, and it has the, probably saw the title there, but it has the old book smell, because I've had this since high school. And that is The Princess Bride by William Goldman. Love this book. My favorite scene in the movie is when they're on the ship and they go through the state those lines back and forth. Vicini, or the rocks ahead. If there are, we'll all be dead, or something like that. That's my favorite scene in that movie. But this was my absolute favorite book that I read in high school. Absolutely loved it. And just was shocked that it was a book before it was a movie. So there's that. Number 6. What's a book you wish you had been able to read in high school? This one's a little bit more difficult. There's, because you have to think of what would I have wanted to have read it on my own as kind of a recreation thing or as part of a class. And so I thought, I'm going to take this as the form of what would I have wanted to read when I was actually not only in high school, but in an English literature class. One book that I've always wanted to read, but it intimidates me to no end because it's, well, the length of it doesn't really intimidate me anymore. I'm looking at the length of the book, and it is just over 600 pages. And I've read a book that long, so that part no longer intimidates me. But I've heard how boring the book is and that things don't make sense. And so I wish I would have read it in high school when, if things were confusing to me, I could have asked the teacher for help understanding things. And so now I'm on my own with it for whenever I want to read it in the future. But I do have a copy of it because I really want to read it. But the fact that everyone says it's so slow and boring, although, there's people that like it. There's always is people in the world that like books that others don't. And that's just their opinion. I've got to develop my own opinion. But that book is Moby Dick by Herman Melville. Really want to read this. I really wish it would have been in high school. I think that would have helped overcome some of the insecurities I have towards wanting to read this, that I still struggle with a little bit, but better late than never with reading this, right? Number 7, if you went to college and read books, are there any that changed your life? Did I go to college? Yes. It was very difficult. I would enroll, do classes for a little bit, and then withdraw, and that just went on for quite a while. Are there any? So I was able to get my associates just in general studies, and then just from the local community college. And then I went to Western Governors University later on and received my bachelor's in human resource management. There's no books that I don't recall any anyway, or that I had to read, that definitely none that changed my life. So yeah, I'm going to say no on this. I mean, yes, I went to college, but no, nothing changed my life. So moving on. Question number 8. Is there a book quote that changed the way you live? If yes, what is it? I mean, there's good book quotes. There's some that make more of an impact on others that you kind of go, oh, that's a good way to think about things. But nothing that had that big of an impact. Nothing that changed the way I live. So we're just going to move on from that one because I'm going to say no. So we're going to move on to question number 9. So question 9 is, what's the most meaningful book you've read this year? So this year being 2020, which maybe should be called the unmentionable year. I'm going to say there's not really one I had to think about this for a little bit. The most meaningful book that I read this year, I'm going to say, is The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. Partly because I've always wanted to read it, but was always, again, an intimidation thing because I knew it was older English, and I thought because of it, I don't know, there was just something about it that I only saw, the people I only saw read this were boys back in years past, in high school and junior high. I think it's an old book, so I only ever saw boys read it. I never saw girls talk about it. I never saw women talk about it. Or read it or anything. It was always boys, so I thought I couldn't read it because, again, I'm the wrong gender. I'm so glad the world is past that now for the most, although there's still room for growth. I'm so glad I was able to move past that finally and read it. I realized because of how difficult, one, it is a little dense. 2, some of the names of places, Mordor is the easiest to say. And Frodo and Pippin are the easier names. Anyway, there's some names of things, places, and characters that were so difficult. I got so frustrated while reading this. So I got Scribd on an app, download it. I had found that they had The Fellowship of the Ring on audiobook on Scribd. So I started listening to that, and it started to put me to sleep. I thought I was really enjoying this, but the more difficult words that came up, the less I enjoyed it. So it went down to like a 2-star. Listen to it. I liked being able to understand and hear the words much better and the pronunciation and all of that. So it raised my enjoyment of it. However, I think it's just sitting and listening to it would relax me so much that I started to fall asleep. So I always had to stop it. So it was very slow going. And then I decided I am going to read along while I listen to the audiobook. Best decision with a book I have ever made. Loved this book. 4-star. Not the best book I've ever read, but I really enjoyed it. I'm very glad I finally read it and listened to the audiobook. It helped so much to do that. So that's why I would say this is the most meaningful, is that I realized if I'm struggling with a book for how dense it is, and because certain words are hard for me to pronounce and it takes me out of the story because it's so jarring, listen to an audiobook of it while reading along. So much better, made the experience so much more. So that's why that's meaningful. And I wish I would have figured that out with the Iliad and the Odyssey. I tend to think, I hope I will continue doing that. Like if I read Moby Dick and it's just hard, listen to an audiobook while I read along. Perfect. Yeah. Number 10, everybody goes through hard times. Are there any books that pulled you out of that? Again, I could say a lot of books, and there's one in particular I'm thinking of, but I'm going to use it for a different prompt. But there was a time I was going through that was hard, and I saw the movie before I read the book. I remember not knowing the movie was based on a book. I just thought the movie looked really good from the previews. And I remember right before going to the movie that my mom told me that it was based on the book. Saw the movie, loved the movie so much that I went to Barnes & Noble, which was like basically across the street from the theater, so to speak, and bought the book. And I just remember I was really struggling with work, with being bullied at work by a coworker. And this just it took me out of that, which really helped, even though it was still hard going to work. But it helped. And that is Divergent by Veronica Roth. I've only read this through once. Have read all of the books. I have not read 4, that prequel or whatever it's called now, companion book. But I do have it and want to read it. But before I read that, I want to reread the whole series. Last 2 questions. Number 11, do you have safety or comfort books, or know any books that make you feel at peace? Yes, and that is going to be the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling, of course we know. But this I have reread, and I'm in the process of trying to reread the series again. This has just helped me because I get so negative with myself of thinking I'm worthless, I'm garbage, a waste of space type of a thing. And those negative thoughts just cycle and cycle. But a way that helps me shut that negative talk up in my head is Harry Potter. I wish I had friends like Ron and Hermione, or even like Fred and George. That's actually who I wish were my friends over Ron and Hermione. But I just, these books are my comfort blanket, so to speak. These are my comfort books, and I love these books. And the last question, number 12, what book or books can you not wait to read to your kids? Well, if I ever get to have kids, I will want to read the children's books that are, it's not a series, but they're all related because they follow the same family, and that's the Berenstain Bears. And I never realized until now, because it's been so long since I've looked into it, but the Berenstain Bears is written by Stan and Jan Berenstain. Out of all, I have loved every Berenstain Bears book I have ever read. Out of all of them, my favorite would be The Spooky Old Tree. I remember reading that over and over with my mother, and when I would read it as a child, I would always say, do the title, and whenever that phrase came up, go, the spooky old tree. Anyway, so that's just something that we talk about and laugh about now, but that would be those books I would love to read to children. So that is my Life in Books tag. Again, this was created by Maddie. I'll have her information below, as well as my social media information. So my personal Instagram, my book Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads. I even started a Discord. So this is the first time I'm mentioning it. So all that will be in the description box below. I hope you're having a great day or night. And until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book. And I will talk to you later.